You know, when you think about communities in Korea, certain images probably pop into your head right away. Maybe bustling Seoul, or perhaps those serene historic palaces. But what if I told you about these specific pockets of the country where, well, totally different communities have carved out a life, often against a backdrop you might not expect? Today, we're taking a deep dive into exactly that. We're looking at two particular cities in Gyeonggi Province, that's Dongducheon and Paju, to really explore the African immigrant communities that have put down roots there. Our mission really is to unpack how these communities even formed, what daily life is actually like for the residents, and the pretty ingenious ways they've built their own support systems. And we're pulling this from some really extensive, in-depth reporting. Think on-the-ground interviews with residents, local shop owners, community leaders, really getting into it.
Yeah, and to really get a handle on how these communities started, you have to go back to the time right after the Korean War. We're talking about places like Bosandong and Dongducheon and Beobunup and Paju. These weren't just random towns. They were strategic spots for U.S. forces.
Right, like Camp Casey. I remember reading, it started basically as a tent village back in '53.
Exactly. And it grew fast into a major base. Critically, because these were frontline bases, you had a relatively high number of black U.S. soldiers stationed there. And for many, it wasn't just a quick tour. A significant number actually lives there, through long service or marrying local residents. And that, well, it created a very distinct social fabric in those towns.
And all that military presence, especially the steady paychecks coming in, it basically created what people call the dollar economy, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Locals would talk about how dollars were everywhere back then. Payday for the soldiers, the whole town just came alive. It was bustling.
Okay, but then things changed quite dramatically.
Yeah, that was a seismic shift. When the big U.S. bases started moving down to Pyeongtaek, the effect on Dongducheon and Paju was stark. That flow of dollars that kept the local economy humming, it just dried up. People started moving away. Businesses closed their doors. The towns really started to empty out.
And it was into that landscape, those emptying towns, those vacant spaces, that a new wave of people started arriving, people of African descent looking for a place to start over. So this is the really interesting question that jumps out from the research. Why these places? Dongducheon and Paju. What drew these new communities to towns that were, frankly, in an economic downturn?
Well, okay, there were definitely some practical things pulling people in initially. Rent was relatively cheaper, which is always a big factor.
Sure.
And importantly, English was understood there. That made basic communication just, much easier than maybe in other parts of Korea.
Okay, makes sense.
But the really significant factor, and this is what's so fascinating, was actually social. It seems the local residents just had less prejudice towards black people.
Less prejudice? How did that happen? That seems counterintuitive, maybe, given broader Korean society sometimes.
It does, but it ties directly back to that military history we just talked about.
Yeah.
Because they'd had decades of interaction with black U.S. soldiers, there was this baseline familiarity.
Ah, I see. So that long history kind of softened the ground, so to speak.
Exactly. It countered that sort of exclusive gaze you often find elsewhere. It wasn't necessarily active welcoming, perhaps, but a lack of the intense negativity some immigrants face.
Ugh.
And our sources mention reporters from the Women's Economy newspaper spent real time there, May and June, just documenting how these communities were forming, how the living areas were taking shape.
Right. And if you go there today, especially to Dongducheon's Bosandong foreigner tourist zone, you really see it. The whole commercial landscape is quite distinctive.
Yeah, you've got these clusters of unique shops, reggae hair salons, African grocery stores selling specific ingredients, hair product shops.
You see the traditional foods in the windows, the vibrant clothing. It definitely gives the area a unique feel.
And another thing that stands out is how many of these businesses operate. You walk around during the day, and a lot of them might look shuttered or maybe just dimly lit. You're not sure if they're open. But then come evening, the place just bursts to life. And that timing, it lines up pretty directly with U.S. military off-duty hours.
So that evening bustle, it's not just about preferred opening times, is it? It sounds like there's more going on beneath the surface.
Oh, absolutely. It reflects something much deeper. It speaks to the resilience, yes, but also sometimes the precariousness of daily life. Some folks are juggling self-employment with maybe short-term labor jobs. And for some undocumented residents, well, avoiding daytime exposure is linked to their legal status, their social constraints. It's a really complex interplay.
Wow. But amidst those complexities, you also have kids just being kids, right? Like Jenny, she's 9, and Samuel, 10. They were born in Korea.
Yeah, African Korean kids, born right there. Speak Korean well, go to the local schools. Our sources say they're totally into the usual Korean youth stuff, video content, memes, you know.
And then there's James, 12, fluent Korean with teachers, but apparently prefers English with his friends and family. Interesting dynamic.
It is. And you also get insights from the Korean shopkeepers in the area. Some have noticed fewer African customers lately, saying many followed the base move to Pyeongtaek.
Makes sense.
Others see really diverse buying patterns now, like a noticeable increase in demand for Filipino foods, for instance. And they definitely confirm that whole quiet daytime, lively nighttime thing, especially for the pubs.
And did the reporters manage to talk to many immigrant business owners directly?
They had some encounters, yeah, like meeting Simona, she's 25, helping her sister's general store that's been there a while. But it also highlighted that, some people prefer to keep their personal stories private. Understandably so.
Right. So we have this picture of daily life, these anecdotes. But what about the numbers? How large are these communities, actually?
Okay, so if we look at the official stats from the Ministry of Justice for 2023, and these are for registered foreigners.
Important qualifier. Okay.
Very. In Dongducheon and Paju combined, Nigeria is the largest group, with 604 registered individuals. Then Ghana, 271, and South Africa, 118. And what's really striking is those three nationalities together, they make up 67%, 2/3 of all their nationals registered in the entire Gyeonggi Province.
Wow. So they really are concentrated in these two cities.
Highly concentrated. But, and here's the catch we mentioned.
The unregistered population.
Exactly. City officials are quite open about it. They only track registered foreigners. They have absolutely no mechanism to count undocumented residents. Zero.
So that raises a huge question, doesn't it? If you can't count everyone, how do you really grasp the true scale, the actual needs of these communities, especially given all those complex realities we talked about?
It's a major challenge. But even with those gaps in the data, what shines through consistently in the reporting is the incredible resilience. How these communities have built their own support systems, basically from scratch.
Let's talk about those. Where do we start?
A perfect example, really a cornerstone in Dongducheon, is the Jaeruron Church. And you have to understand, this place is way more than just a church. Yes, there are religious activities, but it's also a hub for just life support. And it even acts as this kind of alternative system, helping ensure living rights for undocumented immigrants, sometimes even mediating to prevent local conflicts.
That sounds vital. And the person leading it, Reverend Park Haewon, her story sounds quite compelling. She came from a big church in Seoul.
Yeah, she did. And interestingly, she never actually set out to run an African ministry specifically. She felt called to serve where the need seemed greatest, ended up in this immigrant-heavy area in Dongducheon. And she started not with sermons or services, but with the absolute basics, food banks, daily necessities, just practical help.
Wow. So people recognized her as a pastor after she was already helping them survive.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The religious services came later, organically. Her focus initially was just meeting those immediate critical needs. And that work expanded. A really crucial part now is the indirect medical support. They help connect people with sponsorships for treatment. And they actually accompany undocumented immigrants who don't have health insurance, remember, to hospitals.
For serious things.
Yeah, for expensive treatments like kidney dialysis.
Yeah.
Things that would be completely out of reach otherwise. It's literally life-saving work.
That's incredible. And inside the church itself, is there a sense of cultural connection too?
There is now. An African immigrant pastor, Pastor Sonny, actually leads the sermons now. That provides a really important cultural resonance, Services usually have around 30 people, and it's this wonderful mix. Some folks in Korean clothes, others in vibrant traditional African attire. A real visual representation of the community.
And they do practical things beyond the spiritual too, right? Like a dental clinic.
Yes, a free dental clinic. It runs monthly, first and third Sundays, staffed entirely by volunteer dentists and hygienists.
Wow, volunteers doing that.
Yeah, and they learned quickly it used to be first come, first served, and the lines were huge. So now it's strictly by reservation, 20 fixed patients per session. Shows how they adapt.
And they help the kids too, something about a study room.
Right. The weekend study room for elementary kids from the local Bosan Elementary. It's for both Korean-born kids and those who arrive midway through school. Their academic levels can be quite varied, but the teachers are incredibly dedicated. There's one, Jahan Bin, who apparently commutes every week all the way from Yongin.
That's dedication.
It really is. Reverend Park talks about how fulfilling it is seeing these children who have dreams, helping bridge those cultural gaps through education.
But navigating cultural differences, that can't always be easy. Did she talk about that?
Oh, very candidly. She shared experiences, especially around different perceptions of time, keeping appointments, things like that. And she didn't just get frustrated. She actually researched it, looked into cultural influences like how living in vast natural environments or dealing with uncertain conditions might shape concepts of time differently.
That's really thoughtful, trying to understand the why.
Exactly. And it feeds into her core philosophy about integration. She believes that helping immigrants understand and adapt to certain Korean living habits, like timekeeping, appointment culture, is really important for building social trust.
So it's about practical guidance for coexisting smoothly.
Precisely. Mutual respect, mutual understanding, practical adaptation.
Okay, so that's Dongducheon's Jaehyuron Church. What about Paju? Is there a similar anchor there?
In Paju, a really vital place, especially for families, is Joy House. Location-wise, it's kind of on the outskirts in an industrial area. Think scrap yards, junk yards, used clothing factories.
Okay, so more industrial.
Yeah, which means lots of simple labor jobs available and, importantly, lower rent. That makes it an attractive area for settlement for many immigrants.
And Joy House itself, what role does it play?
Well, it's much more than just a daycare, though it does provide childcare. It's really become this crucial piece of infrastructure for the community. It supports the livelihoods of immigrant families by looking after the kids, it provides education, and it functions as this essential safety net for about 30 African immigrant children. It's filling a huge gap.
And the mothers relying on it. What are the situations like?
Often very challenging. Most are described as being in their late 20s, mainly from Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa. And they're often working the kinds of jobs that, frankly, others don't want. There was this really powerful anecdote in the source material. A mother being turned down for a job at a kimchi factory explicitly just because she was African.
Just turned away like that. That's harsh.
It highlights this heartbreaking reality. Many of these immigrants are educated, they have skills from back home. The reporting mentioned a teacher from South Africa who'd studied in the UK, an archaeology major who knew a surprising amount about Korean history. But here, they find themselves at zero base, as one source put it.
Meaning their qualifications just aren't recognized.
Exactly. They struggle to get even basic factory jobs. It's a huge waste of potential and incredibly difficult for them.
So the director of Joy House, Lee Inja, does she see a way forward?
She has a vision, yeah. It's quite inspiring. She dreams of creating small community spaces, think little hair salons, barber shops, maybe small restaurants that she could rent out to the immigrants.
So they could run their own businesses.
Precisely. Work openly, use their skills, move towards self-sufficiency, bring them out of the shadows in a way.
So what does that kind of model, what could it mean, bigger picture?
Well, if you connect the dots,
Yeah.
these self-organized efforts, like Joy House filling childcare gaps, like Director Lee's vision for small businesses, they're actually offering a really valuable alternative model, especially for societal sustainability, right? You think about Korea's low birth rate, the aging population.
Yeah.
These micro-solutions born out of necessity in these communities are tackling major societal challenges head-on.
That's a really powerful connection, finding solutions at the micro level that could inform the macro.
It really is. It shows incredible ingenuity.
This has been, wow, such an insightful deep dive, really peeling back the layers on life in Dongducheon and Paju. We've seen communities built on just incredible resilience, constant adaptation, this proactive spirit of self-support, all while navigating some really tough challenges. From huge economic shifts to subtle and not so subtle cultural differences, they're forging a truly unique identity within Korea.
Absolutely. And maybe as you think about all this, consider this. How do the experiences of these African immigrant communities in Korea, their sheer ingenuity in creating safety nets, their real efforts to adapt, their constant striving for self-sufficiency, even with systemic barriers. How might those experiences offer lessons for any society, lessons about fostering integration, managing demographic change, and ultimately building more sustainable, more resilient communities in a world that's always changing?